Thanks for tuning in to another video.
Pooh and
Honey,
Pooh.
Honey. Santa Claus smile. Okay, so again, we thank y'all for tuning in. This gonna be another story time video. Well, it's not really a story time, but we're gonna touch. I guess you can call it story time. We're gonna touch on the subject of mental health, and as far as my mental health, I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit of what it's like for me to live and with the disorders that I have. And then she's going to give y'all her point of view of being in a relationship and going through some of the ups and downs of being in a relationship with someone with mental health challenges. So, first of all, like I mentioned in the first video, I am diagnosed with bipolar disorder, personality disorder, and I have anxiety disorder and severe depression. So I only found out what a couple of years was, been about 2 years now.
Yeah, about 2 years.
Yeah, what I was diagnosed with. But I've always knew that, something was different about me. I always felt something was different, even from being at a young age. I believe I was in high school. I always had this feeling of, I would get this feeling sometimes of just not wanting to be here. I would always think, back then I thought it was because of some of the things I experienced growing up, some of the things that I had went through growing up, and it probably did. But I would have these periods of time where I didn't want to be bothered. Periods of time where I just want to be in my room and not want to be bothered with nobody. So I remember my grandma Ruby used to always tell me, "Why you stay locked up in that room? You need to come out that room." And during the period of time when I lived with her, because if y'all don't know, a lot of y'all don't know, but my daddy, I went to live with my dad at a certain point in my life. And then once him and his girlfriend kind of split up at the time, his girlfriend at the time, so we went to go stay with my grandma, my great grandma, my dad's mom's mom, my grandma Ruby, rest in peace. She was a beautiful soul, wisdom. I'm just so blessed to have had time with her. She used to always say, "This world is not my home."
I didn't get to meet her, but I heard she was a sweet lady.
Yeah, she was, and she would have loved you. She was just such a, strong culture, just strong woman. I'll touch on a little bit about her, maybe another story, but I went to stay with her. I used to love, she stayed in Dinwiddie. Me and my daddy went to go live with her. But before that, I used to go stay out there sometimes, so I love spending time out there. But anyway, when I was out there, when I lived out there, we spent time doing puzzles and talking and stuff like that. But it would be times where I just shut myself in my room and not want to be bothered. I didn't know what was wrong with why at the time. I didn't know nothing about depression. I knew nothing about anxiety. I definitely didn't know anything about. I definitely didn't know anything about bipolar disorder. I'm sorry. But, I always felt that I was different. Part of the reason because I know I like girls, but I knew something was different about my emotions. Emotionally, I would go through ups and downs and things that may not be maybe simple to other people, may be very extreme to me. And I remember the first time I tried to unalive myself. Um, me and my grandma was at the house, and I had took a bunch of herbs, some blood pressure medications and things. And I believe I passed out in the kitchen floor, and I kept throwing up. And just so happened that my dad's girlfriend, they was off and on at the time, was there. And they rushed me to the hospital. She sped rushing me to the hospital. And she had her emergency lights on, and she was flying. And I remember throwing up. I remember going in and out. And I remember getting to the hospital and them rushing me back and running tubes and things down in my nose. And I remember them pumping this black stuff in my stomach that I later found out was tar.
Oh,
And yeah, and then they used that to pump my stomach. But I also remember my dad wasn't there. He was at my his mom's house. And I remember as I when I came to, um, they well really I never was out because they through this whole process I had to be woke. But I remember my grandma telling me on the phone, my dad's mom, we don't do that. And when she said that, now my grandma wasn't racist by any means, but she said that's not something that we do as, I guess you could say, African American people. At that time, we didn't talk about. My dad, he always said he loved me and things like that, but feel,
same conversations you
yeah,
didn't
we
have.
didn't have. Yeah, mental health was not even talked about. None of that. You know what I'm saying? So you know, so once when that was said to me, and I love my grandma, and I love her, rest in peace, Grandma Marty. I know she didn't say it because
Well,
from
figure.
no, yeah, because she came from a different time as well, where you had to be strong. Where us as colored people, black people, African American people had to be strong, and during her time, where so uh, it was almost like that's a weakness. Well, I'm almost like it was. That was a weakness. And I felt like I disappointed her. I felt like I disappointed my daddy. I felt like I won't being strong and I wanted to be strong. So further on, feelings and emotions and things that I felt, I kept to myself. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know why I felt like that. I didn't know why I would have those days and weeks that where I just did not want to be here, where I was sad, where I won't happy. I didn't understand. Um as I got older and went through, I had anger issues, a lot of rage. I attributed that to some of the things that I went through when I was young as well. But I also was emotional. Now, growing up, and I've always been what you can say on the outside, where people, where it says it's tough, or not like really scared, but I was always emotional. Things would hurt and it would hurt extremely, and other people would, they would react to certain things differently, so it not like I would, like like I did, and it was like I was doing too much, so I hid a lot of my emotions and the way I truly felt. I didn't understand it myself, so, and those weren't things we talked about in our home, and it was mainly because of the way our parents was raised and their parents were raised. So, by the time me and her met, I was spiraling.
Yes.
I was spiraling emotionally, physically. I was self-destructing. I was at a time in my life where I wanted more, nothing more but to not be here on this earth. Nothing more. So I did things that, was reckless. Some of the behaviors I did, things that could have got me unalive, that I'm thankful that I'm here. You know, a lot of things I did, people used to say, that, I had a lot more heart than a lot of guys, but it was not that. It was just I was so fearless because I didn't want to be here. So I didn't care about if something happened to me. Um, by the time me and her got together, I would go, I had been having these episodes where I go from 0 to 1 million in seconds and tear up a whole house, tear up a whole room.
Yes.
Things will go red. and there'll be times I shut down
For days,
days and
weeks,
weeks.
from the world.
Then I go through episodes, some of which I can't remember, but some where she'll tell me where I bump my head against the wall. Uh, I go off on a rampage, pacing the floor.
You had times when she would hit herself in the head, screaming, hollering, crying,
Or rambling, just
Rambling.
rambling on, not making sense.
and I used to have to get her to just stop for a second. You know, it was scary at times when I first met her, trying to understand her.
And she didn't have no idea what I was going through, but she was always there. I didn't know what I was going through. When I would go off on, I would be okay. It was like this. It would be really, really high highs, really low lows.
She would be extremely happy. Then there'd be times when she'd be extremely mad and don't know why she is screaming. It could take the smallest thing.
And then when I'm extremely happy, it'd be like sometimes I'm just filled with this euphoria, but it wasn't really happiness for no particular thing, but just energetic and running around talking and going 100 or talking 100 miles an hour, and then getting to the point where I'm stumbling over my words, not making sense and things like that. So, those are things I experienced. I knew something won't right, and I would try to hide it from my family when we got together. A lot of times I did that by trying to stay away from
She
them.
tried to hide it from me too.
Well,
But we communicated a lot.
I didn't try to hide my I couldn't hide that from you. What did I try to hide from you? I couldn't hide I didn't know what was wrong with me, so I tried to have my emotions. Yes, things I was feeling towards her, from things I was feeling. I didn't want her to see me like that, but I couldn't control it. I couldn't control. I tried to hide the way I was feeling inside. I tried to be strong, show that I was strong. I didn't want her to see me cry. I didn't want to see. Okay, yeah, but
I knew
I couldn't hide the high highs from her. I couldn't hide those because it would happen. I had no control over it, you know. But when I would get down, I would try to hide that from her. I would try to push myself through when I didn't want to do anything. So as we got further in our relationship, and it caused a lot of arguments. I mean, it caused, I would get mad, rageful. I would take it out on her.
Breaking stuff.
I would break things.
Planted things.
Throw things. Put holes in them.
And she just didn't care. That she just had been through so much. She just didn't care.
And I guess, in a sense, I felt as though it was that I didn't care. But I felt it was that, from your point of view, boy, when you said I didn't care about what? What did you, in your point of view, what do you mean by I didn't care?
Not, you didn't care, like, what you do. You just didn't care about his life, and, you know, you just hurt, you know.
I didn't care about,
a lot of it stemmed from hurt.
Yeah, and I didn't have,
not having that person to vent or talk to.
I didn't care about life.
Yeah.
And I thought a lot of it stemmed from the pain that I went through. But mental disorder, yeah, those things can trigger that. But these are things, and I'm still learning, you know. I'm still learning. So a couple years ago, well, at first, after trying to commit suicide a couple more times, and her always being there, her always knowing, her stopping it, her fighting weapons out of my hand and things like that. One time I was seeing a counselor, I can't remember what it was for, and she said, it seems like you on the verge of a mental break. I think you should check yourself in. And for the sake of
your family,
my family, for her and the boys,
and yourself,
and myself, but at that time it really wasn't for myself, to be honest. It was for the sake of them. It was for the sake of them, because at that time I still didn't care about myself. I want, as a parent, I want the parent. By that time we had our 3 boys. I want the parent that I should have been. I had so much anger and rage. I took it out on them. I took it out on her. I did things, but I thought that I was doing it out of love. I thought it was coming from a place of love, and I thought that that was how you supposed to parent. And that's another subject we're gonna get do another video on how I grew as a parent and the things I went through, and how at one time I can admit I was an awful parent. Not because I didn't love them, but because I didn't know how. I didn't know, I didn't know, how to parent. Um,
And
I
nobody
lo-
does at the beginning.
I did things that, as far as whoopings and things, I thought that's I love my kids so much that I thought that I did this is what I'm supposed to do because I need to do because I want them to be better, but I had no business even disciplining them in my mental state. I had no business disciplining them in my mental state. So the first time I checked myself into the hospital, I was there for a week. I won't diagnose then. I wasn't diagnosed then, but I stayed there for a week. They did diagnose me with severe depression, but they kept telling me I need to see a follow up. And I didn't even know the difference between a psychiatrist and a therapist. I thought a psychiatrist was somebody that you go to talk to. I didn't know that somebody that prescribed medication. So the whole time I'm calling to look for a psychiatrist to talk to. Uh, the whole time I had no luck with it. And when I finally went to see a psychiatrist, that
Finally found her one.
yeah, she finally found me one. After so many ups and downs. I mean, and
So many years.
yeah, so many years. And we've been together about to be 22 years.
Yes.
This was this was a couple years ago. Yeah. So think about it. And so much that I put her through. So much that I put her through. But I never remember her looking at me different. I never remember her judging me.
Because I knew who she was in the inside. And I knew that it was a challenge
Even
that
though
she was going through.
and
Even though sometimes I would be scared and not knowing what to do, but I did know one thing: the love that we had for each other would overpower all.
and then and the most part was she never looked at me like I was crazy. She never made me feel like I was crazy. I was ashamed. I was ashamed of my behaviors. I hid it. Like and me and my dad did close, but I hid it from him. I hid it from my mama. I didn't want my sisters and brothers to know. I was scared that people would think I was crazy. People would look at me like I was crazy. I already had so many different things in that time. I was already a lesbian and so many other things that I had been through, you know what I'm saying? That I felt like I wasn't normal. I didn't fit in. So I felt like I was crazy. So I couldn't take nobody else seeing that side of me. And she saw it because we were together. So I couldn't control some of the behaviors that came out. So, and I never, ever, not one time I remember her ever making me feel like I was crazy. Matter of fact, she looked at me as if I was the most normalest person in the world, even in the midst of those things. So when we would have talks and she would tell me that sometimes she would be in fear because I wouldn't look like myself. She wouldn't recognize me. Um,
Just
you
the blank look she would have on her face. And a lot of times when she came to a lot of things she didn't remember
and
that she would have done or said. The pulling of her hair or the hitting herself in the head, she wouldn't remember. And when you look at a person that's going through an episode, they just don't look like their self. It's like an inner body experience. They don't look like their
out of
self.
body.
Out of body experience. They don't look like their self. So either you can be there for them and get their full attention, or either you can just let them sit there and spiral out of control. And that would never be this situation. In this case, I would never let her spiral out of control. Regardless of what fear I may have, the love that I have for her is way more powerful than the fear.
Yeah, and it was a lot of times I know she feared me but she still would step in the middle of my rage. And so, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful. That's why I always would say that she my angel. I believe God put people in your life for a reason, because ironically I wanted to be with her all the time. We was with each other 24 hours when we met, whether we had to stay outside together, whether, and it was times we were homeless together
Yes.
at the beginning. We've been through a lot of things together, so I couldn't hide it from her, and I believe it was meant to be like that. She was the one person I couldn't hide it from. And 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 even in past attempt times, like the first time after I tried to unalive myself, when my grandma said that to me, it made me feel like I had to be strong. I had to push it deep down and never let it be seen by nobody else ever again, you know. So I pushed through a lot of things, not to mention a lot of things that I experienced my daddy or nobody knew about. So I think those may have been some triggers as well. But once I went to the psychiatrist for the first time and I was diagnosed, it was one of the best days of my life. It was.
Yes.
Because then I understood.
You get an understanding of why things are the way they are, why you respond the way you respond,
And
why
like,
you react, why you so happy, why you so down, why you don't want to be bothered at times.
and I was, it was like now I can understand. It's an understanding. And it more so, it made me realize that it won't just something wrong with me. Like I felt like it was just something wrong with me for the longest time. Excuse me, felt as though that it was just something wrong with me, you know. So when I got diagnosed,
Okay,
um, when I got diagnosed, it just made me get an understanding. Okay, so now I understand this. So when you understand something, you can learn about it, and maybe you can learn how to deal with it. And it's been my goal to make my mental disorders my superpower. Learn how to live with it and learn how to overcome it and be okay with it, because it is my normal. You know, I still had those days where family members don't understand why I shut down. I won't answer my phone for nobody. I shut down.
She shut down from us, her family that's in here with her.
Yeah.
But we understand.
And
all we do is love on her in the mix.
I'll go days without even picking up my phone. Not, and it's not because I don't want to. It's just, it's a feeling that I can't explain, and the feeling of sometimes feeling like your mind not your own, or you don't fully have control over it. Your mind sometimes is a feeling I can't explain, you know. So even now and then, getting medication, initially I got medication, but they only put me on medication for my depression, even though she diagnosed me at the same time. The first time I was diagnosed with um, bipolar disorder, personality disorder, excuse me, no, depression. I got diagnosed with anxiety with my second psychiatrist. She only put me on depression medication. So when certain things, I would still have those triggering behaviors, or these things, these episodes I would have, and the episodes would get worse and worse. And I remember my mom and my sister went through, my sister gave my mom a kidney. My mom was on dialysis and stuff, and she needed a kidney, and my sister gave her a kidney. And I remember being in the hospital, these two people I love extremely, immensely, and I'm pacing the floor. I paced the floor, pacing the floor.
She could not sit, and that's part of her anxiety.
And after that, I started going through worse episodes worst episodes, even when they was okay. But I believe my grandma had passed. So it was other things that happened, and it was overwhelming. So I got, yeah, and I got another psychiatrist, and she told me, she said, you should not have been on this medication
without the mood stabilizer.
without a mood stabilizer, and that's why you've been here, there, everywhere. And mind you, my kids would be there, and they would see me go through these things, hitting my head against the wall, screaming, pulling my hair, pacing the floor. One minute I'm real happy, but real excited and happy, but then it goes out of control because I'm pacing, and I'm talking and stumbling, my words stumbling, and she had to calm me down. She'll tell them what you would do.
I calm her down. I would grab her arms or her hand, and look at her straight in her eyes and ask her, "Do you know who I am?" I was like, "Babe, do you know who I am? You know I love you." I was like, "I love you." I was like, "Do you know who I am?" I would ask her several times to get her full focus. And once she come to, she'll come back a little at a time. She'll be like, "Yeah, you Honey, you Jay." I was like, "I love you." She'll tell me she loved me too. And I just rub her, console her, make her comfortable, make her feel love. Because, in this family, it's nothing but love. And then when she finally come to, I might take her to get some air or just sit her down for a few minutes and give her anxiety medicine at the same time, so she can get a balance.
And I'm thankful to her because
and I stop all movement in the house, because when you're in an episode like that, you don't need a lot of movement, a lot of stuff going on, because it can make it worse. So everything around you needs to stop.
And she had to learn these things. We, over the years,
it took time.
As we go, she had to figure this out, because these things was before I was diagnosed. So she could have broke up with me. She could have thought I was crazy. She could have thought it was too much. She could have thought I was harmful. I was angry. I was just. It could have been so many reasons that she could have broke up with me, but she loved me, and she didn't judge me, and she never. Amazing part is it didn't cause her to look at me no different. And here I was, scared and ashamed and worried about how people's gonna look at me and judge me, because certain cases I had, people would say certain things. Like, I remember one time somebody said, I can't remember the family, it's like, "You cry all the time, you cry about everything." Like, you know what I'm saying? But I couldn't help it. Like, I hurt, things hurt, and it hurt extreme. I couldn't control I couldn't control my emotions. You know what I'm saying? So, I remember I would leave and try to go to myself and cry, but I couldn't go far enough from her. I couldn't hide from her.
It was like she's going through.
And even if I snuck away, she always knew. She always came. She always knew. She always knew. And she was always there. She always pulled me back from the edge, So I appreciate her. I really
have to learn how to approach situations when your loved one or your friend or whoever in that state at that time.
And that's why I believe love is the most powerful thing in this world. I know it is, because it's love. It's love. It's love. It's love. Her love. Her love. Yeah, I'm talking about, it'll be weeks after weeks. They'll get up and they live in life, and I'm shut in a room. I would not get out the bed. Weeks. She had to come in there and make me eat. Make me eat. And this still before I knew what was going on. So I just had these feelings that no matter how hard I tried to control them, I couldn't. And then I get angry because I couldn't control them because I didn't want to feel this way. So I get even madder because
Yes.
I wanted to be up with them. I wanted to be doing things with my boys. I wanted to be outside, and
And we would have to go in there and let her know, it's okay. We're
and
going to get through this together. That's what family does.
and it's been they just seen me at my worst, not just her, my boys, and they love me. They love me.
Love.
And one thing with us, we don't hide anything from our boys. We are completely transparent with them the same way we are with you guys. Uh, is a part of who I am. Uh, it's got bad at times, but every time I get through it and every time I make it through an episode, it just shows them that through love and through prayer that you can get through you anything. And also is an example that you love your loved ones. You love people regardless.
Yes, love
It's
on
all
your
that,
love on your friends, love on people.
and it's people out here that go through so many different things that others may not understand. But instead of look
Judging.
judging or looking the other way or laughing,
You could be that person that could change their life.
that love on them, that could
They might
change
just
that
need
moment, that could change that, help them
one
through
thing.
that moment. Yes. And I remember the first time I didn't want to have an episode at work. I was so, you know, um, particular about that. So I ended up having an episode at work. This was not too long ago. Because they stayed trying to calibrate my medications, get me on the right medications. And I was in the middle of calibrating my medicine being calibrated. And I remember I walked in the lunchroom, and this older lady that I eat lunch with, her name Cynthia. She ain't gonna mind me saying her name, but I call her Cinderella because I'm such a loving person too. When I'm in my good, when I love people. That I never met a stranger. At work I speak to everybody. When you go to stores, I speak to everybody, conversate with everybody. I stop and talk to people in grocery stores and everything. So,
She's just a loving person. She love on everybody.
I am. I really, really am. So, I'm that co-worker that get you stream gifts and stuff for your birthday and stuff like that. I just love to see other people smile. So Cinderella, we eat lunch together. And so one day I walked in the lunchroom and she said, something, what's wrong? You don't look right. Something is wrong. You're not looking at yourself. You need to call Honeyy, because that's how the name Honeyy went from me calling her my Honeyy to everybody calling her Honeyy, because whenever I talked about her at work, I would say Honeyy, so they call her Honeyy. And I was shaking. I managed to dial a number, and I couldn't talk. I couldn't get my words out. And this was extreme because I was stuttering, and I was pacing. And I had a friend at work. I call her Sausage Biscuit.
Got a name for everybody.
I always pick a name for people. I give people a name. Her name's Sausage, but I call her Sausage Biscuit. So she got on the phone, and Honeyy was able to walk her through how to help me.
Until I got there.
And they helped me. They had to shut down the break room and everything like that. But it was amazing. It was amazing to have people eat at work, because I was so scared and so nervous. But before, like, Honey, I
picked her up.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, remember before that, I didn't ever want to have an episode at work.
Yeah.
I prayed and prayed and prayed because I didn't want nobody to see me
And
like
this
that.
was a kind of different episode. I had never seen her to that point.
Yeah, this was different. This was anxiety. Because, see, I have certain things with, as far as my bipolar disorder, where I had high highs and low lows. But this was anxiety to the point where I couldn't speak. I couldn't get my words out, and I couldn't move. And she said my hands be twisted.
It was twisted. And they was like stiff, like.
And so I just,
they kept her calm. They gave her the breathing exercise that I told them to give her to keep her calm. She was kind of coming down when I got there. Got her in the car, prayed. We kept talking to her, breathing with her, telling her to stay calm. And she started coming to more and more, scared situation. Yes,
and
to see your loved one in that state.
And I remember a little bit. I remember more with that. I remember trying to talk and couldn't get my words out. I remember stumbling over my words, and then I remember getting frustrated because I couldn't get my words out. I remember trying to pace the floor, but them not letting me. Them trying to get me to focus in on them to calm me down, and I was having a severe anxiety attack. And so I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful. I'm no longer ashamed of who I am and the things that are part of who I am. And
it just makes you even special.
Thank you, honey. And I just know that I have to tell myself that they my superpower. I just, I'm different, and it's not just me. It's a lot of y'all out there that may have the same diagnosis or similar diagnosis, and I want you guys to know that you're not alone
at all.
You're not alone. I'm thankful for her. I'm thankful. I'm extremely thankful because coming from our culture, again, mental disorder, therapy, all of that stuff. No, my grandma told me we don't do that. And I understood what she meant. Us black people don't do that. We don't try to unalive ourselves. We stronger than that. We don't need to go to therapy and things like that, So I did everything. It became something I was ashamed of, and I know she didn't mean it that way. It was just the way she was raised, and in the time at a time that she was raised, So, you know, um, I just want to let all of y'all know that it's okay. That doesn't mean that you weak at all. Actually, you're extremely strong to be able to live with something like that, any type of disorder, and still get up every day and still get through it. So you know, just like I tell myself every day, I'm a superhero. You're a superhero as well, and we just have extra superpowers. People call it a disorder, but I say disorder, but I don't really believe so. I believe God don't make no mistakes, um, so I just, again, I can't say it enough that I'm thankful, for having someone that loved me. And when I was able to talk to my mom and my sister about it, for their reaction to be different from what I thought, and they are still loving and caring. I've never had any type of episode around them. I know when I was younger, I had rage. I would do things that probably, was attributed to some of my disorders, but you know, as far as an episode to that nature like that, they may have seen anger things, but when I explained it to them, even though I know they didn't fully understand, I know that they still love me and they still accept me. And I also know that if I was ever to have an episode around them, that they're going to give me the same love and support that she do. So I now realize I never had nothing to be ashamed about, So, and I want you guys to know, if you struggle with or challenged with any of the same things, you don't have nothing to be ashamed about.
And tap in if you got any questions or concerns,
or if you just want to talk.
We here.
I want y'all to get in the comment sections and tell me, if any of you guys, if you're comfortable.
You got a family member, a friend,
yes,
that
that
you want to help, or
or
you don't
that you
know
just
how to
help,
help.
or if you have any questions, or just share your story. Get in the comment section and share your story because we would love to hear it. We can
Love
help
to
each other. You know,
pull
we're
each
still
other up.
learning. We're still learning. So maybe, something that you may have experienced with one of your family members, a loved one of yourself, that may help her or help
Me,
me when I have enough. If I was to, I made something help me with something that I may experience, because a lot of times some of these episodes and things or experiences, they're different. And many of y'all know, dealing with mental health, the calibration in your medication, it gets you off.
no
When
doubt.
they have to calibrate it, they have to sometimes put you on a lower dose, a higher dose, switch the medication, have to figure out what works. And when you have more than one disorder, it's more
Yes,
challenging because they have to make sure that one medication don't work against one of your other disorders. They have to all work together. So it is frustrating for me sometimes when trying to get on the right medication. My psychiatrist has wanted to take me out of work, you know, but I guess suggested disability. But I believe I can work, and I'm gonna
yes, you
continue
can.
to work and tell. The only way I'll stop working if me being at work is gonna put somebody else in danger or myself in danger. And I truly believe that I love so hard that I wouldn't put. No, I believe that I choose to hold on to that. I won't hurt anyone. You know what I'm saying? Now I don't plan no hope one day being able to not working, but on my own accord. But when I say work, go to my 9 to 5, but be able to do this what I love. I want to speak. That's another thing I want to do. Be a motivational speaker. I have so many dreams that I'm gonna follow. I'm not gonna allow my mental disorders and nothing else hold me back. Nothing I've been through in my past or anything hold me back. Um, I it was a time where I didn't love myself. I couldn't look myself in the mirror. But now I look at
That
myself.
cute face.
Oh, thank you, honey. You beautiful. Now I look myself in the mirror every day and I tell myself, you're great. You're wonderful. You're smart.
Amazing.
You're strong.
Intelligent.
I
Very
tell
much so.
myself, you're successful. You, you can accomplish your dreams. You can do anything. I tell myself these things every day in the mirror, and it feels good because I'm at a place now where I love myself. It was a point where I hated myself. I hated life, and I did not truly did not want to be here. I had a burning sensation to not want to be here. But now I love life. I'm thankful for life. I'm grateful for life. And I feel like it's so many people that's lost their life to addiction, and I feel like it could have been me, and I'm not gonna waste this second chance. I'm not gonna waste this chance that God gave me. I'm gonna chase my dreams with everything I have, and I'm gonna give it all I have, and I'm gonna share my story. We're
That's
gonna
right.
share
We're
our
gonna
story,
share our story.
and we definitely want to hear your story. Uh, and we thank you. I
We
thank you for
thank y'all for
listening.
listening. We thank y'all for y'all support.
I thank y'all for caring enough to take the time out to listen. You know, a lot of times people don't care about issues that don't directly affect them. You know, but you never know, they could affect you in the future, or someone you love, or it could your children or anything. You know what I'm saying? So I feel as though we need to be there for each other and have each other back, and we need to
And
love
lean
each
on
other.
each other.
I feel like we all are family. Blood is not the only thing that can make you family. And all of y'all that subscribe to this channel, we consider y'all family.
The
Y'all are
318 family.
the 318 family. Y'all are our family. We're going to respond. We want y'all to comment.
That's
We
right.
want to get to know y'all. We want to build a community of
We want to
people.
interact with you guys.
Yes, to be able people, and we want to know some of the things you've been through, and if it's any way that we can help, we will be there. For
Without a
you,
question.
without a question. So we hope that y'all enjoy the content. We appreciate again y'all listening, and we hope that this starts a conversation. This definitely starts a conversation. Again, in the comment section, once you get down and share your story. Share your story, and um, how about this? Everybody put a sign symbol in the comment section. That means we all strong. That means we all can get through anything. That means that we all survivors. That we all are thrivers. That's what I want y'all to do for me. If y'all don't have a story, if y'all don't want to post a story or comment, just the strength symbol, the strong arm. And that means we all strong and we all standing strong together. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Again, we want y'all to
like, comment, and subscribe.
Do what?
Subscribe.
Do what?
Subscribe.
Say what?
Subscribe.
One more time.
Like, comment,
and subscribe. Thank y'all again for tuning in. We out.